Hello, and thank you for joining our webinar today, The Secret to Driving Digital Transformation for Your Organization. My name is Laurel, and I'll be your host today. I'm very pleased to be joined by Terillium Vice President Chris Garrity, who's going to take us through 4 crucial steps to digital transformation. Before we get started, I want to review how you can participate in today's web event. You should see something like this on your screen. So if you just head to the questions panel, you can send us a question at any time during the webinar, and we will answer any and all questions at the end. I see a lot of familiar companies online today. Thanks for joining us. For those who aren't familiar with us, I'll give you just a quick introduction to Terillium. So we are an award-winning Oracle Platinum partner and ERP consulting firm. We have 160 full-time consultants across the United States with an average of 16 plus years experience. And we've helped more than 500 businesses. I'm very pleased to introduce Chris Garrity, who's going to be presenting today. Chris has 25 years of experience with ERP implementations. Prior to his 11-year career at Terillium, Chris was in senior management at Deloitte, and he's also worked as a project manager at J.D. Edwards before the ERP software was acquired by Oracle. Chris has a Bachelor of Science from the University of California, Los Angeles, and an extensive background in accounting, manufacturing technology, business process design, and computer programming. His professional certifications include APEX, CFPIM, and Project Management Institute PMP. Chris has spoken at several conferences, including Oracle Open World, Apex World Conference, and numerous user group events. With that, I'll turn it over to Chris. Chris, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you. All right. Can you see my screen with lots of slides?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Get that figured out here. Shut that down.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for joining, everyone. I appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Wanted to talk about digital transformation, and you know, that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So what I thought we would first do is I'll give you how I like to think of digital transformation, and hopefully that'll work for you. The first thing I want to mention is what I think is really changing in our IT world, in our J.D. Edwards world, is information and the sources of information that are now available to us. And some of us are starting to take advantage of this. It's a fairly new phenomenon in ERP systems, but of course we've been seeing a lot of cloud-exposed information on our phones and some of the apps that we use. It's becoming real in ERP systems as well now. And so when you think of digital transformation, I think the first thing you want to think about is information and information sources. Some of them will be internal, and some of them will be external. Some of you probably heard about Internet of Things, right? The fact that we can hook up all sorts of devices, digitize that information, and keep track of it. Given my manufacturing background, I first think of being able to read the PLCs on production equipment and being able to report completions on a work order. Without anyone actually having to do anything, just having an automated process for that. Reporting scrap, that sort of thing as well, can be automated, and that's like a good internal source of data, a good example of that. However, there's a lot of external sources of data, and that's becoming more and more real. We're all familiar with geographic data showing up on maps for us. That happens on our phones. Of course, we can do that inside of a field service app in our ERP systems as well. I was recently introduced to another kind of data that I hadn't really thought of before. I'm sure some of you on the phone have had to build some custom forms, and I'm guessing that perhaps some of those forms have been government forms for particular kinds of reporting, like health and safety data, if you have to report an incident. I was recently introduced to a company called Nforms. Nforms actually, for, all across the globe, across all sorts of different countries, is creating health and safety forms. They do all the formatting. They have APIs that allows you to load the data into their form, and then they can transmit that form wherever it needs to go. So in this instance, the external information that's being provided is form, not so much content, but form format. And that information is being exposed through integration, web integration, so that we can leverage that in our business activities. I think that's a pretty unique way of thinking about it. But again, another example of external data, not the typical kind of data we're thinking of, but that's yet another example of how the digital transformation is changing the sources of information that we have at our access. And all of this kind of information, and I think this is really critical, is becoming real time. The system is now more closely reflecting the reality of the real world, and people are demanding that we have more real time information. And the only way we can take all of this information and make good use of it is if we have the right tools and applications that can digest the information and present it to us in a way that makes it useful. Again, going back to our phones, none of us would be able to use longitude and latitude information if it was presented numerically to us. But of course, if that same information shows up on a map format, that makes it useful. Similarly, we are getting tools that are making it easier and easier for us to take all this new information, make good use of it, record actuals on the shop floor, like I spoke about earlier, but also, for example, if there is a problem, if we have a standard for a shop floor work order step and it's taking too long, the system can inform people that a process is running behind schedule. Or if there's a high scrap rate, we can create an alert so that the system informs us of a problem. We're starting to see more and more of that. So when I think of digital transformation, it's a two-step process. There's information sources that are new and varied and real-time, and there's the tools and applications that lets us avoid getting drowned in all of that information, but provides us the essential things that we need to look at. And that's how I, in my mind, keep digital transformation straight. And the thing is that we're bringing new value to the business with digital transformation. You know, there's certainly been a number of industries that have been turned upside down with technology. I'm sure you can all think of some of them. But the net is digital transformation really can become an important asset for your business. And that's why we put together this particular topic together for our webinar. We wanted to give you an opportunity to think about, you know, some of the things that we can do going forward. And so the 4 ways we're going to drive digital transformation, we're going to talk about it today, is you can see it on the slide. I don't pretend to be able to tell you what your strategy should be for digital transformation. I can just tell you that an enormous shift is taking place right now, and you really can't afford to be standing still. You know, the old adage, if you're not sitting at the table, you're probably going to be on the menu. Your competitors are looking at these kinds of tools and the kinds of digital transformations and how they can bring business advantage to it. And I would suggest that you need to do the same. So, first step, stay informed. It's really difficult, I think. I know you guys got real jobs, and you got to keep busy on what your real jobs are doing. Things are changing fast, and it's hard to keep up. But the fact that you're on this seminar today, and I do very much appreciate you spending the time with us this afternoon, it's imperative that you at least spend a little bit of time trying to stay current because it's moving very, very fast. So, and just how fast, I can give you a couple of data points here. 1.7 trillion worldwide for digital transformation. That's a big number. And if you want to just talk about cloud alone, not really digital transformation, but just cloud technology, But 2018, 160 billion. I mean, that's a big number. 100 billion of that is going to be in the U.S. alone. So there are people moving forward, and if you don't have an opportunity to do that yet, I think there's a certain urgency that you should feel, and if there's a way to convey that to the folks that you work with, maybe these are the kinds of numbers that would be interesting to them. What I want to say too about staying informed is I think the way to approach the problem is to talk to, in your own mind, kind of fix what are some of the best business practices, what is changing that is really meaningful in the ERP space. And one of the things that I think is really exciting for me is, again, my manufacturing background, real-time MRP. We no longer have to wait for, 2-3 hour MRP runs. It is possible now for MRP to be constantly updating supply recommendations based on changes in demand and inventory. That is a very real possibility because of the scalability of these cloud systems. And it's one example of a lot of real-time processing. I know all of you have got some batch processing you're running at night. And I'm going to suggest that some portion of that, being able to run in real time, being up to date, could be advantageous to you. So I suggest maybe you think about that. I think of the MRP example. I think that's pretty important. And I already kind of talked a little bit about this, but one of the things we're working on is we're seeing more and more of in the new apps is managing by exception. Again, all of the standard data, all of the standard transactions take place, whether they're performed manually or not, but not all of that information needs to be viewed and made access to everyone. But we are seeing a lot more managed by exception functionality. That is something that all the new apps are doing, and so it brings to people the information that they need to respond to, and it categorically doesn't bring information to them that they can ignore. It makes people more efficient, and again, it takes this sea of data and provides us the content that we really do need to see. Internet of Things, device digital monitoring, Internet of Things. Again, I think that's a pretty common idea. And the other big one, and I realize this will be uncomfortable perhaps for some of us on the phone, but reducing operating costs by moving to the cloud is a very, very common thing anymore. We're seeing more and more of it. I'll talk a little bit about that later, but the simple truth is that is a huge change that's taking place. And we can do it for JD Edwards. We don't have to move to a different ERP platform to get onto the cloud. So having said that, another opportunity, these are best business practices, but the other thing is just software capabilities are really changing. AP automation, for example, that we have the capability now to, and this is standard in ERP software, the more modern ERP softwares, although we have an ability to add this into JD Edwards. We can get an invoice from a customer. We've already created the PO back in the system, but we get an invoice from the customer. We can scan that invoice. We can read that invoice using optical character reading technology. We can create metadata around the invoice and store it and index it for paperless retrieval. We can then basically do an auto match on that invoice against our POs and create a payment to the vendor. We can go touchless on AP unless there's an exception. Again, one of those scenarios where most of the POs, most of the invoices are going to match. Just let that flow, and only in those cases where they're out of tolerance between the amounts or the quantities or the items, only in those cases do we bring that forward to a human to figure out what the answer is. That's available today. That's not pie in the sky stuff. More pie in the sky is machine learning. And we were just at Collaborate, Laurel and I, and we heard from Oracle and what they're working on with machine learning within ERP applications. They're talking now about an Oracle digital assistant. So basically, we're thinking like Siri or Alexa kinds of technology. It feels like within the next 5 years, maybe sooner, these things always seem to move faster than I anticipate, but within the next 5 years, there certainly will be some functions within our ERP systems where we will be able to talk to the system to give commands. Now, There's a lot of learning that Siri and Alexa do, just like there'll be a lot of learning for ERP to learn. But the point is, I mean, we're getting to Star Trek kind of stuff now. We're going to be able to do that. Oracle demonstrated chatbots, so that if you have questions or if you type in commands that are logical and make sense, it can assist you to get where you want to go and do what you want to do in the system. Autonomous database management, being able to tune the database without any human intervention and keep a record of what it's done so that somebody can go back and figure out what's going on if they need to. All of that is coming, and that's all machine learning. And so AI, while it seems like that might be well outside the realm of reality for most of us in our ERP day-to-day world, I do believe that we will see this probably before 2020. We will start seeing some of these applications come on board. So that's exciting news. I mean, a real game changer going forward. And then I already spoke a bit about hosting, so I won't spend more time on that. So if you're staying informed, you're going to see lots of opportunities, and some of them are going to be, way out in the future. Some of them are going to be speculative, but some of them are going to be real. And what we're finding our customers are telling us is these are kind of the questions that they're bringing to us. What would it take to upgrade my existing systems? Some of the capabilities we're talking about are available in JD Edwards in 9.2. Some of them are available in 9.1, but 9.2, the current release, when you upgrade, you get the orchestrator product. We have the new integration server. There's some web-based services there that exceed what we've been able to do in the past, and so there's some reasons to upgrade your existing JD Edwards world to take advantage of some of this digital transformation we're looking at. There are, of course, the Oracle Cloud solutions, and some of those may be relevant to you. And it's just a question of what brings the best ROI. And again, I can't speak to your situation, so I don't pretend to know, but I'll tell you what we're seeing with some of our other clients, and maybe some of this will apply to you. This chart, now this is after Ultra Consulting, so if you want to go and research this a little bit more, Ultra Consulting can talk to you here, and what they're looking at is they're asking the question about what does it mean to be a cloud system. And I don't necessarily want to go over all of this for you, but you can see some of the criteria that they looked at that was important to them. I will mention to you that there's an acronym here. If you go down to the third column, BYOL, that means bring your own licenses. And so a scenario where you've got JD Edwards, you want to retain your JD Edwards, and you want to move it to a hosted environment, maybe a Oracle hosted environment, well, that might not be completely cloud in some people's minds, certainly not in Ultra's, but that is moving towards the cloud and creating an infrastructure that will support integration with cloud services, cloud information that you might need. So that's the licensing. But there's two things that always come up, and I want to bring this up right now, right up front. Something we heard last week at Collaborate. A majority of the security breaches that we've all heard about, some of them, but there's certainly a lot more of them that we don't hear about, but a majority of the security breaches could have been avoided because security updates were available for over a year, but were never applied. Now let that sink in for just a minute. And I bring this up because when it comes to hosting or cloud infrastructure, a lot of people go, no, I'm hearing about all these breaches. Oh my goodness, I couldn't survive that. And you know what? It's a very real problem. But I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of different layers to your tech stack, and there's a lot of different opportunities for people to breach it, and it is hard to keep it all maintained because that's not your only job. Rarely do we see our clients that have a security officer whose first and only requirement is to get security patches done. However, when you move to a cloud or well, just any kind of a hosted environment, you can get an environment where there is a person whose job it is to make sure those security updates get applied. I think that's a really key point. I understand how anxious people get about security, but you have to ask yourself, really, where is my system, my information most secure? And then the other point that we often hear in the hosting world is tenancy and the issues around tenancy. And I just want to make it completely clear that our JD Edwards clients, when they move to the Oracle cloud infrastructure or any of the other cloud infrastructure providers, those are single tenant environments. You are not sharing code, certainly not data, never been data, but you're not sharing data, you're not sharing code with any other customers. Those are all single tenant. That's a change that's taken place over the last couple of years, but not everybody's kind of caught up on that news. And I want to make it abundantly clear to you that single tenant is the way right that we're in right now. We will see more multi-tenant environments going forward, but of course that'll be a choice, and probably it'll be a cost advantage to going multi-tenant, but you don't have to go there if that's something you and your company just aren't comfortable with. So just some ideas about cloud and not cloud. Again, Ultra Consulting if you want to get more into what this chart means. What we're looking at is there's lots of opportunities out there, and what our clients are usually landing on when they're looking at making changes in the near term is hosting somewhere over on-prem on a cloud infrastructure, basically going to something like Oracle Infrastructure as a Service, okay? Or looking at JD Edwards and adding a cloud application over the top of JD Edwards or next to JD Edwards. We see a fair amount of that now. Right now at Terillium, we have a project where we are upgrading someone to JD Edwards 9.2, and the client is also implementing Oracle procurement. There was functionality in Oracle procurement that they thought was compelling enough that they wanted to get that product, and so they're implementing that, and we're going to integrate the two together. That's going on right now. We've also had clients talk to us about human capital management. We have a number of clients that are interested in the Oracle planning and budgeting cloud service, and using that where they used to use something like a Hyperion, or they just kind of struggled. Sometimes JD Edwards doesn't have all of the consolidation and intercompany capabilities that we like for the budgeting and planning cycle, so they looked at a product specifically designed for that, Oracle planning and budgeting, or PBCS for that. And also, again, in all of these instances, we're talking about integrations via web services with the orchestrator, the AIS and ADF AIS and orchestrator. We have the capabilities now in JD Edwards to do all the kinds of real-time, REST-based web service integrations that we might want to do. Now, our customers talk to us about this, and they tell us that here are the key things that they look at when they're talking about moving their ERP system from JD Edwards to the cloud. Okay, they look at functionality, cost reductions, upgrades, security and uptime, return on investment. We'll talk about each one of these just a little bit. Now, what we're seeing is that three major industries, right, are going after the cloud. We see it in, I don't suppose it's surprising, but banking, professional services, and then discrete manufacturing. Industrial manufacturing is another area. We also at Terillium, maybe it's not a major trend, but we're seeing clients, we've done a number of clients that you have project-based service providers. In fact, we're going to show you an example of that just a little bit later. But if you're a service provider, but you need to have project control, planning and budgeting, and then go into project tracking of costs and revenues, that's another area where the cloud is strong. Financial services. We've got a number of financial service clients that basically just they have GL, AP, AR, and fixed assets, and they have gone to the cloud for those products. We also have wholesale distributors, and again, I already spoke about the industrial product manufacturers. And the return on investment that people are looking for when they go in this direction. These are just some ideas. This is what our clients are looking at. First and foremost, they're looking for a lower total cost of ownership. That's the thing that they're really looking for. And I'm going to be candid with you. costs, the cloud product providers are very cognizant of how much it costs to have an on-prem solution and what those cost structures are. And they know they've got to compete head-to-head with that. But you've got your own personnel, you've got maintenance fees, which are somewhere between 22 and 24% of your purchase price on an annual basis. They are looking for a competitive cost structure that can meet or beat what your current cost structure is like. Conversely, on-prem has its own advantages, and you have to look at all of those costs for each scenario, and depending on what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go, how you're trying to transform, that cost structure is probably very, very close because everybody's competing on price. You won't find huge advantages one way or the other, in my estimation, but depending on your scenario, you might find that the cloud is decidedly cheaper. The one thing I can say for sure is going to a cloud service. Again, cloud services are renting of software or renting of infrastructure, not buying it, and so it moves from a capital to an expense cost, and some people find that advantageous. You do have the licensing fees, at least the initial licensing fees are reduced. And again, it all comes down to making your processes better. So why would you even bother? Well, it comes back down to things like functionality, more robust solutions, better access to information, and more real-time integration. Those are all the kinds of things that people are looking for when they're making these kinds of investments, because they are investments, no question. So these are the sorts of things that people are looking at when they're looking at the dollar signs that go along with these kinds of transformations. And, it's a lot to keep track of, but I can tell you that almost every user group that we go to wants to talk about cloud and cloud services, and if it's not talking about replacing an ERP system, then it's talking about other things that they can bolt on that they need, or what about infrastructure? All of those things are being discussed. Also, obviously the software vendors, I'm sure there's products out there, but I cannot think of a product right now that isn't offered in both an on-prem and as a cloud service. Just about everything is being offered both of those ways. So you'll always have that opportunity with just about any new change that you're looking at. And then, of course, we like to think at Terillium, ERP consulting company, we like to think that we can offer you some insights. We certainly can share with you what our clients are doing, where they've had some success. We can tell you what have been the roadblocks for some of our customers and why they chose not to get involved in any kind of a real digital transformation at this time. And we're glad to share some of that with you, talk about your particular scenario. All you got to do is ask. We'll have those conversations with you. Now, if you're staying on top of it, you're getting the information, you're trying to pick out your kinds of advantages where your strategy is going to be realized, how do you set that into motion? Well, in our experience, the biggest challenge is people like us on the phone, we kind of get that there's something going on here, but we got to get the key stakeholders in the business, either the IT management, higher management, IT executives, or working with somebody in the business who sees a payoff in moving to some of these newer technologies. Obviously, there has to be a business case. We realize that. That makes perfect sense. But of course, it takes a family of people who want to go forward to make a change in an organization. Now, there's a couple of scenarios that we're seeing right now that are getting played out in 2018. One of them is the IT organization is listening to the business, is aware of some of the digital transformation opportunities, and they're bringing those to the business. And that is slowly but surely we're getting customers moving towards more of a digital transformation. The other, less admirable situation that we see some of our clients in is the business community suddenly gets religion around cloud. Seems to happen on golf courses a lot between executives. And then they discover digital transformation and they get real enamored with it. and then IT is set into scramble mode, trying to figure out what it is that they want and need and how to get that delivered. Both of those scenarios are real. Obviously, the first scenario makes a lot more sense. Even some rejection on the cloud is better than having the organization not realize that IT understands how this cloud technology can be leveraged. So it's always good to be proactive and get in front of that, because more and more of your executives, more and more of your senior management and management in your community, in your user community, they're hearing about this stuff, and they're going to hear more and more of it. And you want to be out front, not get caught off guard. And that's what happened at a couple of these clients. Is the IT organization, we were able to work with them and bring them some real opportunities. The first one I want to talk about is Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs, you probably have heard about them. They're actually, I think of Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Derby as sounds like that would be kind of a stodgy kind of business, but it's not stodgy at all. In fact, they are very forward-thinking in their IT strategy. And, they've got this, ancient facility that is revered. And, of course, they've been running the Kentucky Derby, looking on the slide there, 1875. They've been running the Kentucky Derby for over 100 years. And, but they have not sat still. They are working on a digital transformation. In fact, what we're going to tell you about is some work that they've already completed as a part of their digital transformation that I think is really pretty compelling. One of the first pieces of it is they knew they wanted to get some cloud apps around customer relationship management. So Oracle Sales Cloud is what they are using for their sales pursuit and capture application. Okay, and then what they did is they integrated Oracle Sales Cloud with Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster obviously can provide ticketing information, and what they're doing is they're tracking all of their customers. They're keeping track of who comes every year based on ticket purchases, and they have marketing directed at them. And then they also look at what customers used to attend but haven't attended for the last couple of years, and they create marketing around them and try and bring them back into the fold. But the most interesting thing that they're doing is they have developed a mobile app, runs on your phone, that attendees can get onto, and it helps them navigate the actual Churchill Downs facility. The facility itself is 1.7 million square feet, so it's a big facility. And the app is designed to help people enjoy aspects of the facility. It provides them details about where things are at in the facility, of course, with maps. That's something we're all used to. But it also has content around certain historical significance of artwork and artifacts that exist within the facility. Ways for people to enjoy the experience of being at Churchill Downs, irregardless of the racing that's going on, as well as content that helps people with all of the racing. You could go on right now and on an online app, you could place a bet for the Kentucky Derby. That's possible. By the way, it's coming up on Saturday at 2:30, I think. So, their Twin Towers application allows you to place bets, and depending on what state you're living in, I'm not sure the legality of all that. I won't pretend to know that, but the point is, they are making it easier and easier through digital transformation for their customers to interact with them, and they are tracking the information about their customers so that they can better understand what they're doing. And this is something they started about 10 years ago, and it's in place now, and they've had some great success with that. Another example, Conifer Insurance Company. They only implemented Oracle Financials because that's all they needed. And the reason they went forward is because they were going to go public. So they're a company that has special insurance products. They basically serve markets like small grocery store chains or any kind of a hospitality environment, Hospitals would be, well, I guess not really hospitality, but hospitals are in that, as well as hotels, as well as other kinds of small business. So commercial entities that need insurance, that is Conifer's specialty. And they were going public, and they knew that they wanted to get onto a modern financial system. And here's an example where we were able to bring them up in very short order. Didn't take us long at all. And we were able to give them better reporting capabilities. And we're not just talking about financial data per se, but getting managerial reporting that was better than what they'd had in the past, meeting all of the regulatory reporting requirements of an insurance company. And they gained a lot of efficiencies because their intercompany accounting and the consolidation of all of the financials is something that they could do in the Oracle Cloud in a way that they never were able to do with their previous software product. Here's some of the new business benefits that they received. And one of the things I want to mention here is that, Oracle Financials Cloud, one of the things that is really important here, the second bullet point speaks to this a little bit about a robust and flexible chart of account. The data structure within the financial app is different than anything we've had before for ERP software. Basically, the data is held in a cube, kind of like what Hyperion does, if you're familiar with Hyperion, or maybe a data warehouse, if you're familiar with a data warehouse. It makes it easy to do period over period, month over month, year over year comparisons of financial data. And it's all online, and it's all available in real time. It's just a huge paradigm shift in how you store and have access to financial data. And it's been usually successful for Conifer. They also have some of the other, just good old-fashioned journal owner processing, the ability to upload and download. Of course, those things exist in J.D. Edwards, but those things are better and quicker in their estimation. And they feel like they have more real-time data, and it helps them make better managerial decisions as a result of it. So that's what Conifer did. So Churchill Downs, very different story from Conifer. And then there's yet a third one I'd like to present to you. And this is EMC. EMC is a lighting company. I think that's probably the simplest way to say it. Fast growing. Look at that growth rate. 249% growth in the last year. And so I think the simplest way to describe EMC, it's a little oversimplified, but you kind of get the point. If you have a commercial building or a commercial parking lot or any kind of a commercial operation, and you want to transform it into LED lighting, EMC is the kind of company that does that. And they don't make the lighting, but what they do is they will do a survey for you. They will look at your current consumption. They will recommend solutions for all of the different spaces you have and all your requirements for lighting, and then allow you to decide what you want to go forward on, and then they will implement the new lighting solution for you. Again, they're not a manufacturer, but they purchase as an OEM, and they will install it for you. And that's the service that they're in. So they're a professional services company, but they're basically project-based because they do it for each customer one at a time. And they've got all sorts. They've got healthcare, food industry, retail, industrial lighting, convenience store lighting, all sorts of different kinds of businesses that they provide their solutions for. Again, basically the transformation to LED lighting. And I'm not even sure what a kilowatt hour is. I just know 3 billion is a lot of them. So this is something that they always talk about. I wanted to include that there. And now EMC gave us a nice little quote, and I wasn't involved in this, but I can tell you that as a Terillium executive, I'm very proud of the EMC story because we took a couple of Oracle Cloud products and we knitted them together to create a solution that solved EMC's business problem. It was creative. It leveraged the best parts of various cloud products, and it gave them a robust solution that they are live on today and are extremely happy with. And this is just a pictorial of what we crafted for them. But what we did is we took Sales Cloud, the CRM kind of part of Sales Cloud, financials, the Cloud Project Portfolio Management application, job costs, for those of you familiar with that. Then we took purchasing and inventory. We took those modules, we wrote custom integrations using the Oracle integration tool that created a total solution for them that goes through all of the steps you see on the screen right now. And it is a start to finish, limb to tomb project cost and revenue control system that meets the needs of EMC. So they took a rather significant leap, moved on to this new cloud structure, and they feel like they've got the best tool that allows them to work from anywhere. Project sites, working with vendors, wherever they're at, they have access to this information and can keep track in real time about how their projects are doing. And it's been a really big boon for EMC. They've been very happy with that solution. And so, 3 examples, and we have some others, but those are 3 examples we wanted to provide for you. And I guess the reason we wanted to show you some real live examples of clients that are live is this stuff is real. This stuff is happening now. You know, things like machine learning, yeah, that's not going to come for a while. That's going to be out there in the future. But there are real advantages that you can leverage right now for your business. Some of them, I hope, that I've spoken about today resonate with you, and you can see how that might be useful to your company. But if not, there are other opportunities, and we'd love to have an opportunity to talk to you about it. That is, of course, up to you. But for now, if you've got some questions, I think Laurel and Laura, we can open up the phone lines and see if there isn't something that we can do to answer questions for folks.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Chris. That was great. Thanks for sharing all that information. So, yes, if you have any questions, it looks like we do have one. If you have any questions, please go ahead and send those in through the questions panel, and we'll answer those there. If anything comes up that's more in depth, we can always follow up afterwards, and we do have on the screen, you can see Chris and I both our contact information, so please feel free to reach out to us as well. So the one question we have had come in so far is the implementation time shorter for cloud implementations?
Yes. Our experience is that, and to be honest, the first ones weren't, but now that we've got some experience with this over the last 3 years, we can do these implementations faster in the cloud than we're able to do it in native JD Edwards. Probably by, well, I would say 25% would probably be typical, but it could be more, could be less, depending on exactly what we're trying to implement. So we do find that it's faster, and so therefore it's cheaper to implement the cloud products as opposed to JD Edwards in net new environments.
Okay, great. Thank you. So yeah, we'll give it another minute if anybody has any other questions. Otherwise, please do feel free to follow up with us separately, and we do very much appreciate you joining us this afternoon. And thank you again, Chris. That was a lot of helpful information on digital transformation as well as cloud and cloud versus on-prem. A lot of good stuff to think about. All right, well, if we don't have any other questions at this time, thanks again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for participating. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye.